in terms of even entrepreneurship, I think having a standard, that's probably the most important thing to success. What people don't understand is the person that's making $12 an hour is making $12 an hour because that's their standard. Because there's people that are making $220 an hour. Why? It's their standard. Business is a marriage. It's like you got to breathe life into the business. And the way you do that is by talking about it.
All right. Thank you for being here on The Billionaire Hour. I have Vick Tipnes here with me. Thank you for allowing us to shoot in your studio. We're very excited. It's going to be a great discussion, but I start every single podcast giving our guests a gift.
Wow. Can I open it?
Of course you can.
Wow, look at this.
That is a AMALFI One private jet card membership.
Wow.
Gives you access to 3,500 airplanes across 170 countries, and there's $5,000 preloaded on there.
Oh, wow. This is a serious card.
Heavier than a Centurion, JP Morgan Reserve. It's the heaviest.
Jeez. Look at this thing. That's badass.
Awesome.
Awesome, man.
Well, thank you. I look forward to diving into this story. Jump right in.
That's cool.
I feel like a lot of people, again, like a lot of people watch the content, want to get started, want to start their own business. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, just start it. It's like, great. But like, what does that mean? And I think a lot of people, I just want to understand like how you build a business. And, when you're starting a business, how do you grow? When you have no money, small office, no employees, like how do you do that? And I think it comes down to like determination. So where that comes from, what keeps you going, when things get hard, how you keep pushing through.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think, I don't think people should start a business, to be honest with you. I think that there's this BS fake facade online on social media that you should go out there and start a business because you're going to have an amazing life.
Yeah.
It's just not true. Now, yes, there are highs and there are low lows. And I think what people don't understand is the lows are very low. And, 64% of companies in the United States, and there's 33 million of them, are not profitable. 64% are not profitable. 80%, or if not more, companies that start don't make it. So, I mean, that's worse than getting married, right? Like even though people getting married, which I'm a big advocate for marriage, you got a 50% success rate. People still do it. I get it. Makes sense, and they should. But when you talk about a business and starting a company and putting your net worth at risk and your house and your credit and everything else, I don't really advise people to do it unless they've really done some soul searching and they're just completely comfortable with the uncomfortableness. Like if you're happy with getting a steady paycheck and having predictability in your life, where you kind of know what's coming and all of that, and you can kind of predict with things over the next few months, then you shouldn't start a business. If you have the capacity and the nerves to be able to withstand all types of uncomfortableness, then you should start a business.
So what encouraged you to start yours?
I always knew that I wanted to be a businessman since I was a little kid. So for me, I went and bought a briefcase when I was like 18 years old, and I didn't have anything in it, pens and paper, and but I thought,
How to look the part. Makes sense.
I mean, that's a big part of it. So being it, right? You got to be it. And so for me, I would walk around with this briefcase, even though I was working at, Publix, bagging groceries and stuff like that. But, kind of like Bruce Wayne during the day and Batman at night. And so that's what I did. And I knew that if I wanted to be that, I needed to be that. Right. And so for me, it was then just finding the right opportunity that would fit into something that I was passionate about. And so, I got introduced to the medical sleep testing space almost 10, 12 years ago. I got an email from a friend of mine about it and about a medical device. And I was like, oh, I think I could build a company around this. I never dreamed that it would get to this level that it has. Started with one employee, and now we're I think our first office was like 500 square feet, so it was super small. Um, it was so horrible that people, that we would, schedule to interview would come and they would turn around.
Because they saw the office
Saw the
and
office,
were
like,
afraid to come in?
ooh. So then we got smart. We meaning 3 of us. And we got smart and we started doing our meetings at Starbucks.
Mhm.
And they were like, "Well, let's meet at the office." Yeah, it's under renovation.
Yeah.
So, that was the beginning, and then, now, 10 years later, we've got, 3 offices. We've got, I don't know, 12, 13,000 square feet here in this office. And then we've got an office in Medellin, Colombia. It's got about 20,000 square feet. And then we got another office in Washington, D.C. It's a couple of thousand square feet. So, little over 600 employees. We're the largest medical sleep testing company in the United States. So we've tested over 1 million patients throughout the U.S. and we help a lot of people with their sleep. And so if you're not sleeping well, you should contact
Mhm.
us, and we'll help you get diagnosed because that's the first kind of step to getting onto treatment. Because sleep is very important, as we know. And when I got started in the business, sleep was like, you know, it wasn't like coffee table talk as it
Yeah.
is now. Now it's like very common to talk about, sleep and how
Mhm.
are you sleeping. Everyone's got a sleep app. So I'd like to say I was one of the pioneers of being in the sleep space, and I've been able to accomplish a lot in the space.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's my take on starting a business.
Mhm. Now, a lot of the things that we talk about here on the Billionaire Hour is kind of where that drives come from, right? So you started at Publix, you said when you're 18 and
17 on it.
17. And I guess how did you make the jump from working at Publix to starting your own business? Because again, it's not for everyone, as you said. And I guess how did you jump into the sleep space specifically?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people ask me that question, like, what drives me? I don't know. I don't think there's anything that drives me. And it's just me. It's just who I am. It's just I want to get things done, and
Mhm.
I want to win.
Yeah.
You know.
And would you say that because I guess everyone's driven by different things, right? And I
Mhm.
think focusing on yourself and that kind of energy. So like, coming to work every single day is having the infrastructure set up and having a big list of to-do lists of different things you have to do. Is that what kind of keeps you going every single day? You want to attack it, win, check them all off?
Um, Not really.
Mhm.
I'd like to tell you that
Yeah.
uh, it sounds very predictable to do. No, I don't have a to-do list.
Mhm.
I never really write anything down. Um, eh, eh, you know, uh, I think for me, I'm more of an architect
Mhm.
in terms of like, if you ask me, well, if we walked into the offices now and we're like, hey, can you log into the system?
Yeah.
I can't log in. Like, I don't know the login. I've never logged in.
Mhm.
We have our own operating system, but I've never logged in. Um, I don't know how to do any of those things.
Yeah.
So sort of like Steve Jobs, he
Mhm.
wasn't a coder. He was kind of an architect.
Yeah.
So for me, I struggled for many years trying to figure out what type of entrepreneur I was.
Mhm.
And for me, I'm more of an architect. And so for me, I wake up more with the mindset of what can I create?
Yeah.
I got kind of a blank canvas, and it's like, what can I create every day? And focusing on those
Yeah.
things, and let the people that are very smart that we have on our team focus on the nuts and bolts of everything that needs to work. We have a lot of talented people. You don't get to 600 employees by
Mhm.
not having a lot of talented
Yeah.
teams. So I've got a very great talented team, but I think for me, it's more of what does the big picture look like?
Mhm.
And am I moving everything in the right direction towards that big picture every
Mhm.
day, as opposed to to-do lists and things like I think that's very unproductive for
Mhm.
me. Like I think at some point, and I think you transition as an entrepreneur. I think in the beginning I was probably more to-do list
Mhm.
oriented and all that stuff. But honestly, after many years of working, I feel for me like I would get way more done without email. I hate email.
Mhm.
Um, I hate texting.
So
Like
you're a big in person.
I'm an
Yeah.
in-person, get on the phone guy. I'm
Mhm.
not a texter. I'm not an emailer. I'm actually switching to have just my assistant read me my emails because I think it's a waste of time.
Mhm.
Like, if you really look out, do you move the needle in front of email? And the answer is no. You know, like Warren Buffett said one time, he says, email and text is confirmation, not communication.
It's a good way
It's
of putting it.
confirmation.
Yeah,
Hey, did you get the menu?
yeah.
Could you show up at the meeting?
Mhm,
And I think what a lot of young entrepreneurs miss is this inability to develop your skills to communicate. If
mhm,
you're hiding behind emails and text messages and you think that's really communication, it's not.
mhm,
It's not. It's pick up the phone and call the person and talk to them. That's how you really build a meaningful relationship. And the people that I associate with that are very rich, very successful people,
mhm.
we have lunch and we talk and we
Yeah,
we get on the phone. It's texting is more of a sending something like, "Here's a link to this," or "Check this out," or
yeah.
blah, 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 or, "Hey, meet you Saturday for lunch."
Mhm.
But we don't communicate through that, and if you look at very successful people, you'll find that thread quite common.
Mhm. So when you're building a business, I mean, I think that obviously you guys were in person, right? You have, as you said, like 12,000 square feet here. How do you set the vision in person? Obviously not through emails, but I mean, I know that your team is telling us that you're sitting in all the different sales meeting the new hires. How do you keep the vision of the company alive as you start to set up the processes so the company runs independent of you?
Well, I think you gotta talk about it and you gotta kinda be about it,
Mhm.
right? You gotta be the thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really kind of putting it there. It's
Mhm.
like when people get married, they
Mhm.
think like the biggest day is their wedding day, and it's like, oh my god,
Yeah.
and up into the wedding day, it's like, oh, everyone is creating the wedding.
Mhm.
You know, what are we gonna do the wedding, and then the honeymoon, blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Right? It's just the beginning, right? What most marriages fail at is they don't get past that day.
Mhm.
Well, if you ask the couple, well, hey, what are you doing a year from after you got married? They're like, I don't know. Well, what did you plan? Nothing,
Mhm.
right? So anything that you want to breed into existence, you got to breathe life into it.
Mhm.
So yeah, a business is the same way. A business is a marriage. It's like you got to breathe life into the business. And the way you do that is by talking about it
Mhm.
and by, breathing life into it. So what I do a lot of the times is I'm breathing life into I'm putting it there.
Mhm.
Like, I'm putting the dream there. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing every day?
Mhm.
It's not to-do lists, right? I
Mhm.
mean, yeah, we have targets and we have all these things that we wanna do, but what's the future look like?
Mhm.
And I think a CEO's gotta put the future there.
And how do you do that day by day? And I guess, do you ever delegate that to other people, or do you
I
think
mean,
it's
no one's
really
gonna
just
do it like
yeah,
you do it.
yeah,
No one's gonna do it like the CEO,
mhm,
right? Or the owner, the founder, right? Nobody's gonna do it. People can, but I think that, it's just talking about it all the
mm,
time. Like, like, I think as a business owner, as a CEO, you gotta kinda wake up and forget the to-do lists and the cold plunge. I'm like,
mhm,
I don't believe it, any of that shit. Like, I think it's
yeah,
just somebody's rich, like, "Oh, I'm selling a bunch of tubs."
mm,
I mean, just get up and work, right? Get up and actually do it. And you gotta create it. Like,
mhm,
you're only gonna have the life that you create. You're not gonna have a
mm,
life that you want by letting somebody else do it for you,
mhm,
right? You gotta participate in it. So, just like a marriage, it's the same way. Like, I'm always creating on those things.
mhm. So you're married, correct?
Yeah.
So how do you balance building a big company and being married at the same time?
There's no balance.
Yeah,
You're not gonna have balance. Balance is a myth.
mhm,
Balance is for people reading, Dale Carnegie,
mhm,
yeah, like How to Win Friends and Influence
yeah,
People, which I think is a horrible book, personally. The reason I think it's a horrible book because, um, I think you should be self-authentic all the time.
mhm,
Like, if I live off the premise that I need other people to like me, I'm giving you a sword to
mhm,
cut my head off.
yeah, and you're never being yourself, you're putting on this facade for everyone.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
you're you're potentially, being somewhat of a chameleon sometimes with other people. And it's not that we don't naturally sometimes do that.
mhm,
So I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about from the aspect of, all the time, every time you meet somebody, you have to apply this, I need you to like me.
mhm,
which I think is a horrible thing to have. Like, I think one of the best qualities I have is I don't care. Like, I don't care. I don't care if somebody likes me. I don't care if they like me, don't like me. I don't really care.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that, those people are rude or mean. Like, I'm not rude or mean,
Mhm.
right? Like, I'm a delight to be around.
Yeah.
When I saw you guys, I was very kind and nice, right? Where you're like, "Wow, he's a nice guy." Maybe you didn't think I was gonna be that nice of a guy. I don't know. But you have to have manners and you have to
Yeah.
be nice, right? But I'm not I think when people have this thing, like, they want everybody to like them, like in that book, I think that's a curse. I think
Mhm.
that's a horrible thing to have
Yeah.
because I want you to like me because you like me.
Mhm.
I don't want you to like me because I'm trying to get you to like me.
Mhm.
Like, I don't really care, right?
Yeah.
And then not that I don't care about you, but it just means that, like, I'm not gonna give you that power
Mhm.
over me.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so I think, I forget what the question was now, but balance.
Yeah.
So, you know, with balance, it's kinda like, look, there's no balance.
Mhm.
Like, I'm trying to win, and I'm trying to win at all costs,
Mhm.
not to the cost of, um, I wanna lose my family,
Mhm.
right? Like, sometimes you have to think about success and there's levels of success, right? There's people that have 2 planes and 3 planes and X amount of net worth and all that stuff. Well, all that stuff comes at a price. And sometimes as an entrepreneur, you can get caught up in particularly in social media, you can get caught up in this, vortex
Mhm.
of, gotta be better.
Yeah.
Well, and you see it all over social media. Oh, this person's net worth is 600 gajillion
Mhm.
dollars, and they make a gajillion dollars every hour. You're just like, right? You feel like a loser,
Mhm.
right? You're like, oh my god, you can. Uh, but I think that what people have to understand is there's a price to pay for everything. You know, could I quadruple my business in a quicker period of time than maybe the next 3 years? I probably could. But it would mean that I would probably end up getting divorced
Mhm.
and not see my kids.
And I think it's interesting to dive into because I feel like a lot of people, and especially with social media, right? Someone has a G6, someone has the new Gulfstream
Yeah,
G700. I
yeah.
want that, but I think a lot of people don't recognize that there is that line that you draw, and I think that there is a lot of highly successful people that have had many divorces, and a lot of people overlook that and be like, oh well, they're so successful, but I mean, as you just mentioned, there is that thing that you're giving.
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna be, $3 billion richer and my kids don't know me and, I'm divorced again
Mhm.
and, and my kids are a recluse because they haven't had a father figure in their life. That to me is something I don't wanna have. So I don't think necessarily that somebody is successful, in my opinion, just because you have money.
Mhm.
Well, what's your spirituality look like?
Mhm.
How's your relationship with your wife or your husband look like? Like, what about your kids? What about your inner circle?
Mhm.
What about your contribution to mankind? Like, you can't just be winning on one thing,
Mhm.
but yet everything else is a train wreck. To me, a person that has all those things is way more successful.
Mhm. Yeah. There's a quote that I always like that some people are so poor, all they have is money. And I
Yeah,
think that people overlook a lot of the ancillary things and,
yeah,
and the important things. And I think to make someone whole. So, going back to vision, you have a lot of employees. They were telling us you have an office in Medellin.
uh
How do you, again, I'm just thinking at scale. As I was telling you,
yeah,
20 employees is a lot. It's impossible to manage, at least I feel like, for
yeah.
you
It's a lot. Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
To have 600, are you showing up to the office every single day and meeting with these people? Do you have people that you confide in to keep
Hell
your
no.
energy and architecture in the company?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, I can't meet with all those people.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. I think I meet with 6 people, 7 people that I deal with.
And then they go out into the company.
And then they have another 6 or 7,
Mhm.
and then they had 6 or 7. Like, I talked to, like, 6 or 7 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's impossible to talk to her. Now I'm available and, somebody wants to talk, you know, fine, but,
Mhm.
on a day-to-day basis, I mean, I can only talk to 6 or 7 people.
Now, within your company, I know about your company. A lot of the viewers watching this may not. So specifically, what do you guys do?
So we're the largest provider of medical home sleep testing in the United States, in these United States, right? We have a medical device that's like the size of a ring, and we send it to patients' homes all across the country, and they do the test in their home, and they send it back to us, and then we diagnose them, and then we provide treatment recommendations for what they should do.
And becoming the largest sleep apnea provider in the state.
And we do mobile cardiac telemetry, which is monitoring the heart and over a long period of time, and pulse oximetry as well.
So you wear this, okay, and it takes one.
And it connects with your iPhone app. We have an iPhone app on iTunes, or the Apple's App Store, sorry. And then you download the app, and then it connects with the app connects with the device, and you're off to the races.
Well, so growing the business, what's
What
the
were the
biggest
challenges?
challenge?
I mean, I had a lot of challenges. I mean, we were almost by 2013, I was almost bankrupt, and then 2014, I was almost bankrupt, and then 2019, I was almost bankrupt. You know, because the healthcare space is a very difficult space. But starting the business, I lost money for 4 or 5 years when I started. So every day, every week was a challenge, and trying to figure out how to make payroll and how to survive and all that stuff. But I knew that eventually it would pay off. I just needed to keep going. I needed to outlast everybody else, which I did. My biggest competitor went bankrupt in 2018, and then we took off from there. We just had a lot of momentum, and we were doing all the right things, and and we never quit.
How important is being competitive in a business space?
Well, I mean, if you want to win, I think it's the most important thing. And when I say competitive, like when you mean competitive, what do you mean?
I mean, against like the competition, like a lot of the people that I've interviewed here on the podcast, there's a lot of like very similar qualities. And it's always, I'll name drop their competitor and they get upset and they're like, oh, that company needs to be destroyed. And they have that kind of competitive nature that really drives them.
I mean, I'm competitive, but in my space, my competitors, I know them, and we're very professional. One of my main competitors actually came to my conference, which is very kind of him to do. And I don't think like I wake up thinking about my competition every day. I think my focus is look, if somebody beats me, they had a better product or service. So for me, it's how do we make our product and service continually better and better and better? And that's really the focus, is every single day is how do we make it the best? I never look at what my competitors are doing. It's irrelevant to me. I'm competitive from the aspect that I don't want somebody to beat me in providing a better product or service, to keep it simple.
Yeah.
So as long as I'm doing that and investing in that every single day, then, it'll be very hard for somebody to compete with me. But that's the focus,
Now, I guess as you build a business, biggest challenges, I know you shared that you guys almost went bankrupt a couple of times. How does that motivate you? How do you get past almost going bankrupt on multiple occasions?
I mean, if you don't give yourself an out, like people have to. That's why I said like being a business owner is not for everyone. It really isn't, and you have to really decide if you're all in. If you're a dad, you can just give up being a dad.
Nope.
The same thing. I mean, like you can't give up. Like hard times are gonna come, but the people that last are the people that don't give up.
Yeah.
So for me, giving up is just never an option. It's like I'm never gonna quit. So I don't care what you throw at me or what you do. Like I'm never gonna quit.
So getting to kind of that brink of bankruptcy, not having an out, pushing through on multiple occasions. Again, I'm going back to drive because I think a lot of people will, and I think social media portrays a lot of different views of business. But I think a lot of people look at that and be like, wow, like, how did he do that?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
I mean, I would like to tell you it was some elaborate thing, and I got up every day and watched a motivational video or something. I don't know, maybe one of my videos. So. No, I mean, look, I think what has always gotten me through all the difficult times that I've gone through, and there's been many, many, many of those, is just the premise that I'm not going to quit. Like I'm not going to give up.
Yeah.
This is not going to happen.
How do you, again, like, being the architect of a business, how do you decide who to hire? Are you involved in a lot of these new interviews?
No. It depends on, if it's a real senior position, yeah. But no, I mean, like we have a very high standard
Mhm.
of who we want. And when we find that, we hold on to them and we don't let them go. And so the really criteria is we want brilliant people.
Mhm.
Yeah, we want brilliant people. Good people don't last here.
Yeah.
Like you got to be great.
Mhm.
The high, in terms of the senior team and real key positions, you got to be great. Otherwise, you just don't make it.
Mhm.
You crash and burn.
What would be your tips for people that are hiring? Like, have you heard the phrase hire slow, fire fast? Is that something you implement?
No, I think hiring is a crapshoot.
Mhm.
I mean, there's nobody, and if they tell you that they figured out scientifically how to hire people, they're full of like it doesn't exist. Hiring is a crapshoot. Okay, I've done all the personality tests and done all that stuff, and I did when I did the personality test, the person that came out the best on the personality test ended up suing me. Okay, which I won, by the way.
Mhm.
Um, the only thing that works is when the rubber meets the road.
Mhm.
You got to really just see what people can do. And right away,
Yeah.
right? Like you've hired people and
Mhm.
like, oh, she can do it or he
Mhm.
can do it. But you know the ones that can't,
Mhm.
right? And so when you know the ones that can't, I just get rid of them.
Yeah.
I don't waste time.
Mhm.
Like, that's how I guess how you get the reputation of being heartless and cold um, is by just getting rid of people that just don't work.
Mhm.
Right. But it's actually not heartless. It's actually, you actually do have a heart because you care about the business you created.
Yeah.
And that person is not good for that business.
Mhm.
So the best thing you can do is get rid of them.
How do you navigate that, being the CEO, always making decisions in what's best for the business, but again, there's like that emotional component?
I don't have any emotion in it
Mhm.
at all.
And would you say that that's the key to success? Kind of removing from emotion, kind of just thinking what's best for the business and every decision?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have any emotion. I think the worst thing you can do is be emotional about a business or any situation, really.
Mhm.
You know, sometimes I drive people crazy in my own family and business because I'm just very black and white.
Yeah.
Some people love it, some people don't. That's fine. But I think being unemotional isn't a bad thing, right? Like you want to look at things objectively
Mhm.
and what is best for the business. Like if I woke up one morning and I thought there would be another person that could take my role better, I would hire them if I thought that they could do a better job, because that's what would be best for the business.
Mhm.
And I think you have to objectively look at it that way, like everything, like what's best for the business. Oh, this person's not, but they're this and this, and they walk your dog and they do this and that and all this for you. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay, now you're getting emotional,
Yeah.
right? So the best thing you can be is unemotional about it because it's not Disney World.
How can someone remove emotion from the equation? So someone's a CEO of a company, they want to make decisions to make the company more efficient.
Well, they probably wouldn't be the CEO if they're that emotional.
Mhm.
That's why I'm like, yeah.
No.
If you're an emotional person, please don't start a business.
Mhm. In order
Like you're gonna make a show out of it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work.
Now, looking in the future, business is growing, offices in Medellin and here. What's the growth plan? I know you talked about having a plan long term.
I mean, just keep going. It's never enough.
Yeah.
Right. Just gotta keep going.
Now, marketing. How do you market the business? Because you have a personal following on social media. And I guess when did you start that? When did you start posting?
I started on social like 2016, 2017, and get real serious about it until 2019, 2020.
And what was the main there? Like an outlet sharing?
Outlet,
Put into
just sharing information, content to help
Yeah.
other entrepreneurs, like yourself and
Mhm.
other people, and it's free.
Mhm.
And so that was really the focus. And for Blackstone, look, we've never spent money on any advertising in the sense of like print or social media. We've never done a print ad. We've never done a billboard. We've never done a Facebook ad. Nothing. Our marketing comes directly. We have hundreds of salespeople all throughout the country in 44, 45 states, and they market directly to physicians. We have over 50,000 plus physicians that we service, and And so we're essentially business to business.
Mhm. So having the sales team directly reach out to the physicians avoids the marketing kind of component there.
Yeah.
Now, with your personal following, when did you launch RiseCon?
2022?
Mhm.
23, right? 23, 20. Again, it was really just a way to give back and provide an environment where, business owners, entrepreneurs across many platforms could get together, get content from some of the biggest names in the
Mhm.
industry. You know, I had, you know, there's not many people, in particularly in, Florida, than, Grant, who's a friend of mine,
Yeah.
and, he does the 10X conference. Other than him and me, we're the only ones doing big conferences at this scale
Mhm.
with A-listers that we have. We had Magic Johnson and David Goggins
Yeah.
um, and Tucker Carlson and Alex Rodriguez and Rick Ross and just a host of people,
Mhm.
right? Jay Cutler and a lot of amazing, amazing people. And so, the whole premise was to create that environment for other people.
Mhm. Now, throughout building the conference, I mean, I guess, has there been a moment that's like the most rewarding? And my kind of ultimate question there is, I feel like a lot of people I talk to, they always are sharing that like when they're building a business, the business has a mission greater than just like the physical component.
Yeah.
Now, you're in the healthcare space, right? So there actually is a very clear help for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But for you specifically with the content with RiseCon, like what encourages you to give back?
Mm. Well, I think it's not just, I mean, I can't say it's all altruistic, right?
Mhm.
Um, Nothing's really altruistic all the time. So I think, for me, it was more of I wanted to create the environment. I wanted to be able to give back to other entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
But also selfishly, I wanted to get to meet a lot of people and create great relationships.
Yeah.
Um, the compound interest continues to pay off. I mean, the people that I've gotten a chance to meet, that I've become friends with, um, since that, and since I've gotten on social media has been, you
Mhm.
know, profound,
Yeah.
So, it's really a positioning play, right?
Mhm.
Being able to position myself on my brand, um, with other amazing people and be able to, learn from them
Mhm.
also on a personal level.
Yeah, I feel like, again, people are the average of the 5 people they spend time. I made a video
Absolutely.
on this that if you're
I was
hanging out
telling
with
my
people.
wife that the other day. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the average of the 7 people you hang out with.
Mhm. And if you're hanging out with people that are not doing anything, doing drugs, there's gonna be no value there. So, surround yourself with big people at conferences. Like, what has that done for your network specific and for you?
Well, you guys
Mhm.
came to see me, so, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just that, right? It's being able to text with people and have conversations and
Mm.
reach out when needed or help,
Mhm.
advice, I mean, I'm a big learner, and
Mhm.
I'm very curious, and I like to learn a lot, so, I'm able fortunate, really blessed to have the people that I have in my network that I can call,
Mhm.
and get, run something by
Mhm.
and all that.
Yeah. Now, when I started my company, I was 19. I started out of my college dorm. And for the first, like year, we didn't make any money. But as we started to make money, being 21, 22, I didn't really have a lot of people to go to for advice. All my friends that were 21,
Yeah,
22 were at frat parties and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
So you building your network,
Uh-huh.
who do you go to for advice?
The people of my network,
Mhm.
you know, um, for entrepreneurs, I think the best method, or strategy that you can have is building your network.
Mhm.
Like, and I'm not talking about your network to go party,
Yeah.
your network to actually, who do you have in your Rolodex
Mhm.
that is an experienced business person,
Mhm.
or an opinion leader in their space,
Mhm.
right? That's who you want to, like, if I could go back to when I was 22, 23 years old,
Yeah.
that's what I would be focused on.
Mhm.
Like, I need to put myself in the right environments
Mhm.
to meet those people and not think short term. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think very short term
Mhm.
and they're like now, now, now. Um, and I'll have to like, and my advice to that is, I was telling somebody a couple of months ago, I said, one of the hardest things I think that entrepreneurs have or young people have is they feel intimidated by being around successful people.
Mhm.
And I said, look, I said, there was a period of time when I was building my business and I had somebody who reached out to me and was like, hey, I want to, you know, invite you into this this group or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and, um, and I was a little intimidated
Yeah.
because this person was very successful, and I was like, "But I'm not that level."
Mhm.
And I what I could have done is I could have kinda crawled into my shell and said, "No."
Mhm.
Okay? And the lesson here that I realized was I was like, the only way that I'm gonna get to where I wanna be is I gotta live in uncomfortableness all the time
Mhm.
until uncomfortableness becomes a regular day,
Yeah. Like
right?
being comfortable being uncomfortable.
I just had to be comfortable
Mm.
being uncomfortable, and so I went against that urge
Mhm.
to be comfortable, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna be uncomfortable," and so I went and I joined this thing, and over a few years, right? See, here's the thing, it's not days and it's
Mhm.
not months. People gotta think in terms of years,
Mhm.
right? It was years. It was a few years later that, this guy and I became really good friends,
Mhm.
okay? And we continued to be better friends after that. And I learned 2 things. One is I was like the first thing I learned was I gotta be uncomfortable,
Mhm.
okay? That was the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was that you have to at some point, understand that you do belong,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of people miss that, and they don't grant that thing to themselves,
Mhm.
that you belong, because everybody else, no matter how rich they are and no matter how successful they are, also started the same place you did, okay?
Mhm.
Unless they were just born into wealth,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but you gotta believe that you belong, and I think when you believe that you belong, that fear of being around people that are successful goes away.
Mhm.
And now I can say, and it was an evolution for me, so no one told me that when I was younger, right? I had to kinda go through it and learn by myself. And now looking back, I can say, "Yes, you know what? If somebody had told me that, 'Look, you don't have to earn the right to belong. You belong.'"
Mhm.
Right? Now, what you do have to earn is your stripes. You gotta earn your stripes because most successful people don't wanna hang out with people that are very unsuccessful
Mhm.
or are not at least trying to get better. See, there's a difference,
Mhm.
It's not like all I hang out with is successful people. No, I hang out with a lot of people, various ranges of success, but the common denominator is that everybody in that group is trying to get better.
Mhm.
That's a big difference. Not, "Hey, I'm cool, I'm good." No, I'm trying to get better, in their own estimation of whatever that is, right? And so I encourage people to be uncomfortable and to build that network very early on and not live in this zone of just being comfortable because it's not going to get you there.
Mhm. I mean, I kind of relate that back to like a line of like, in order to have the life you've never had, you have to do things you've never done. So you
I
have
mean, dude, that's every day for me.
yeah.
And 80% of my day is that I do not want to do.
Mhm.
It's stuff that I don't want to do. And anybody that tells you that, oh, everything's great, and you're full of
Yeah.
most of the stuff that you have to do every day, you don't want to do,
Mhm.
right? You're not like, oh, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like who says, oh, I can't wait for this meeting,
Yeah.
right? Now there's some meetings that you do, and that's why I say it's not 100%. But generally speaking, the vast majority of your day, my day is filled with stuff that I don't really want to do. But I know that if I don't do it, I'm not going to get to where I want to be.
We jumped in, right? And we talked about how you worked at Publix.
Mm.
What was your upbringing like? Where'd you grow up?
So, I grew up I was born in Leicester, England, and, my parents were very successful when I was born, and my dad was a very successful entrepreneur. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and, my dad was a business owner, in various businesses in the UK. Then, on the advice of some family members, he decided to sell all of that
Mhm.
and move to the US and bought uh 25-unit motel in Tallahassee, Florida.
Mhm.
And so we went from this really posh life in the UK and, went to private school. And, my dad had a Mercedes and all this stuff. And uh, we were now living and working in this motel. And so, my whole upbringing was living and working in this motel. And it did shape a lot of things for me because I think what I realized is what I didn't want. my dad and my mom all of a sudden didn't have a life,
Mhm.
and I don't remember actually going to places with both of them because one person had always stayed behind.
Mhm.
So I probably remember my from 8 to 18 probably went to the same place together twice.
Mhm.
So when I was growing up with that, I was like, this is not the life I want to live.
Mhm.
I mean, every day was work. Every day was, renting rooms. And, there'd be times we would have to go and make beds at 10 o'clock at night on a Friday or a Saturday so we could re-rent the room and stuff like that. And I would go do that with my mom. And, so my whole childhood was filled with that. We were laying concrete and fixing drywall and putting tar on the roof because there was no money to hire people to do it.
Yeah.
My dad was very cheap, very frugal.
Mhm.
And so at a very young age, I learned how to do a lot of this manual labor stuff, which is why I never go to Home Depot or anything anymore because I'm just like, I'm not doing that
No.
anymore. Like I will not you'll never see me in a Home Depot. If you do, something's wrong. And it's because I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
Right. I'd rather work harder and pay somebody to go do it than spend my time doing that.
Mhm.
And so that was my childhood. And so, as I got older, it did help me to kind of say, hey, this is what I don't want to do.
Mhm.
I don't wanna be an owner-operator.
Mhm. So having, I guess, that upbringing, going from private school in England to Tallahassee, Florida, I mean, that's a pretty big shift, obviously.
It's huge.
Yeah. Now, like, I guess living that kind of style of an upbringing, obviously, I know you just mentioned that it kind of showed you what you didn't want, but what kind of qualities, I guess, about hard work do you get from doing every single kind of job at the motel?
Well, it definitely taught me work ethic. I
Yeah.
mean, my dad was a now guy.
Mhm.
Everything was now. Something was broken and we'd fix it now,
No.
like everything was now. I'm definitely a now guy. Like,
Mm.
I can't wait. I drive people crazy with that.
Do you attribute that to your dad and his work ethic?
Yeah, I mean, I naturally had that.
Mhm.
I think seeing him kind of gave me the green light to say this was okay. But I've always been a now guy.
Mhm.
Like I can't wait for something,
Mhm.
so patience is something I have to work on.
Yeah. And then being an entrepreneur, your dad was an entrepreneur. Is that where you kind of got the idea to be an entrepreneur from your dad?
Yeah, I mean, look, most of my family have been entrepreneurs at various levels, and I have a very successful. My dad's brother's son is extremely successful.
Mhm.
Um, and so I would watch a lot of them as I was growing up, and
Yeah.
and then I would see various, people, doctors and lawyers, and then I would see these business owners, and so for me, I think when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I knew I'm like, "Oh, I wanna be an entrepreneur. I wanna be
Yeah.
a business guy." Because I would look at them and I would be like, "Well, look at this guy's life, and look at this guy's life,
Mhm.
and look at this and that," and I just gravitated towards that, and I
Mhm.
was like, "That's what I wanna do,"
Yeah.
and, my parents wanted me to go to medical school and all that, and I didn't wanna do that.
Mhm.
I didn't wanna not because, you know it's just something that didn't really appeal to me.
Yeah. Now I wanna jump. I know we're gonna wrap up here in a moment, but I we're an aviation company, so I wanted to ask, you own a plane.
Mhm.
What kind of aircraft do you own?
I have a Gulfstream 3.
Okay. When did you get the Gulfstream?
I think it was 2 years ago,
Mhm.
a year and a half ago. Yeah, around there. It's always been a dream of mine to have a plane,
Yeah.
and, I think for me, it was the challenge,
Mhm.
you know, could I do it? Because as you guys know, in the plane business, buying the plane is actually the cheapest part.
Yep.
That's the cheapest. It's the cheapest part of it. The most expensive part of it is the maintenance and the upkeep and the fuel and all that stuff. So, I think for me, it was setting a standard of
Mhm.
how I wanted my life to be
Mhm.
and how I wanted to use my time for me. The fact that I have multiple offices and I have an office in Medellin, it allows me to go back and forth, and I go quite often, on the Gulfstream, and it's a beautiful plane, and it sits 13 people,
Mhm.
13 or 14 people. So it's a large jet, and to me, Gulfstream is Gulfstream.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Rolls Royce engines, and
Mhm.
nothing like it,
No.
and so I think what has allowed me to have is my time back, but also I think more than that is, I'm a big believer in setting a standard for yourself and
Mhm.
never going backwards.
Mhm.
As I highly encourage people to have a really high standard. no matter what that is. And it doesn't have to be something huge all the time. Like your standard could just be the way that what you consider to be a high standard for the type of restaurants you go to, or the type of clothes you buy, or the type of Uber you order, right? Or your standard in how you want to spend money. Do you want to look at the price tag or not look at the price tag? Like whatever those things are to you, right? That standard is something that you want to set high and you don't want to reverse back. So for me, the plane was that. It was like, okay, if I do this, it's like getting a Rolls Royce. It's like once you get a Rolls Royce, you can't go back. Like even if you buy the most expensive Mercedes or BMW, people will think you're in a recession.
No.
Unfortunately. So you have to think with that. So for me, the plane was the standard. Like, okay, if I do this, you can't go back.
What do you think of the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses" is?
Well, I mean, I know what the phrase is. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that if you're keeping up with the Joneses, it's stupid because there's always a bigger fish.
Yeah.
So I think that you shouldn't go after that. I think what you should go after is what is it that you want? You know, like don't get something just because somebody else has that. Like I don't do that. Like I don't want to do that. Like yeah, that's not my thing.
Yeah.
And I think
I like the way you said that though, having a standard. I've never heard it like that, and I think that is really important. Of this is what I want my life to be like. I have this. The next thing is a G5, a G6, and moving forward from that kind of encourages you to keep on that. I like that.
yeah, no, look, I think in terms of even entrepreneurship, I think having a standard and a very high standard of that is probably the most now that you mentioned that, I think that's probably the most important thing to success. Because if you don't have a standard, like a true standard, like this is what I'm going to accept, this is what's okay for me, this is what's not okay for me, and then you work like hell to always maintain that, it's really hard to lose, right? It's really hard to lose because what people don't understand is the person that's making $12 an hour is making $12 an hour because that's their standard. Yeah. Because there's people that are making $220 an hour. Why? It's their standard, right? Just like when you became 16 years old and your first car payment was $150 and now you're spending $600 a month. The only thing that changed was your standard. Nothing else really changed. You now have a standard that, hey, my car payment should be or can be $600.
Yeah.
Right. So setting your standard in every area of your life to me is probably one of the most paramount things you could do, because now that you have a standard, which most people have no standard or don't know what the standard is, how are you going to hit the target? You don't even know. You know what I mean? Like you don't even know. If you ask a guy, you ask a girl, like when girls will say, like, I want a successful guy.
Yeah.
What's successful? No, he knows how to make successful. How much money? Well, I don't know. 100? 200? Okay, so you got no standard.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying like, you make the standard on the money, but you get the formula, right? So you got to have a standard. If you don't have a standard, you're never going to hit it.
That's really insightful. And I think that's a great place to wrap up. Vic, thank you again for letting us borrow your amazing studio, for allowing us to shoot the Billionaire Hour here. Thank you for sharing your story. I'm inspired. I know a lot of people will be inspired. But again, I want to thank you so much.
Absolutely, man.